These 5 diet changes are gonna help you eliminate your eczema, improve your gut health, detox your liver. So let's break this down and make this simple so that you can actually heal your eczema naturally, which from my experience and my opinion is essentially truly the only way to go from flaring, miserable, itchy, you don't have a clue what's going on with your body, to the other side, which is living a lifestyle where your eczema is under wraps, where it's managed and you feel good. So the very first diet change that I recommend all people to start with is go from eating processed foods to eating non-processed foods. I refer to this as whole foods, which basically means a food that hasn't been processed, but because of the store Whole Foods, it makes people think shop at Whole Foods, and that's not what I mean. What I mean is going from eating processed breads. So if I were to sit here and say, okay, what I want you to do is cut out gluten and cut out dairy, what you're gonna do is, how can I replace this bread with this bread? How can I place these chips with these chips, these tortillas with these tortillas? And yes, maybe that is like one step in the right direction, but gluten-free doesn't mean it's good for eczema or good for your health. Gluten-free products are often then loaded with a lot of starch. So cassava or corn or rice or whatever. And that's actually not what's gonna help your body actually heal from the inside out. We wanna feed our body with nutrients, and so moving from eating foods that are processed to non-processed, meaning we don't eat foods that come in packages. Now, the exception for this comes along with if you have a package of ground beef, that's totally fine, right? Or a packaged, fillet of salmon. The salmon itself has not been processed. The second change you're gonna make is being cognizant of histamines and salicylates. So our livers, when you have eczema, are often overworked. So what this looks like is non-alcoholic fatty liver. And if it's the first time you're hearing something like that, you're already in YouTube, so go and do a search of non-alcoholic fatty liver, heal naturally, and listen to doctors speak about this. That should help you out a lot. So what I want you to do is be cognizant. So what I would suggest doing is trying a food that's high in histamine. So foods that are very high in histamines are aged foods, fermented foods, anything that's been through like a fermentation process. So if you're feeling risky, you can try a little bit of sauerkraut and then sit there for a couple of minutes. Notice if you have any reactions. You may react between immediately up to 30 minutes. That's if you have an immediate reaction. What you also have to write down and keep track of is I had a day where I ate high histamine, and then that next morning or that night I was miserable. And what I would do is have a day where you eat higher histamine and just write notes and keep track. Then you have a couple of days where you eat really low histamine, write down, keep track. If your body seems to be improving on the lower histamine, continue forward with that, but point yourself in the direction of liver health, liver healing. So that brings me to the third tip, which is how do we heal the liver through food and supplements? So the liver leads a phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification process, and certain foods and certain nutrients help us through that process. And what I'm gonna do is in the description box down below, I'm gonna link out to a blog that I wrote speaking specifically about the nutrients that help the liver and exactly what foods have those nutrients that'll help you heal. But the liver likes foods like celery. If you've ever came across a medical medium, he talks about celery, and that actually is pretty valid. So celery juice in the morning is good, snacking on celery is good. I really love wild blueberries for the liver as well. But what your liver and gut need are bitter foods. So dandelion greens, Swiss chard, fresh herbs, stuff like that's gonna help detox the liver and heal your gut. The fourth major thing that you need to do in your diet to heal your eczema naturally is pay attention to how many starches and how many sugars you're consuming in a day. Now, let's not get obsessive over this, but I like to have the percentage to be around 60 to 70% of your diet being non-starchy vegetables and protein, nuts, seeds, that sort of thing is fine. Then the 40% or 30% of your diet in a single day can be starches like bananas, butternut squash, sweet potatoes, rice, quinoa, stuff like that. And the reason is overconsumption of sugars and starch can contribute towards non-alcoholic fatty liver. And it also contributes towards feeding gut bacteria like Candida, like SIBO, staph, strep. There's a lot of things that can be off balance in our gut, and starches and sugars feed that. So non-starchy vegetables, non-starchy fruits, like I do like berries a lot for people with eczema, and just paying attention to that ratio in a day is going to really help you reduce your eczema symptoms. The fifth and final thing we have to talk about is caffeine. A lot of people with eczema struggle with stress. You may be under chronic stress and your nervous system may be super dysregulated. And when we include caffeine into that mix, it can create a lot of imbalances with our cortisol, with our body's ability to manage stress. So my recommendation is if you have severe eczema, I would love if you go caffeine free. But if you're like a coffee drinker, 3 coffees a day, knock it down to 1 a day, switch to green tea or matcha. From matcha, go down to green tea. From green tea, cut it out completely. And that is honestly ideal for healing. So I know you guys don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. So if you implement these 5 different changes into your diet, this is what I use with my clients inside of my 1-month-long program called Empowered Unleashed. I have details for you in the description box down below. You can look into that. I work with people very intensively for 1 month long. We will focus on the eczema portion, which is the diet, the supplements, the topicals, all of that. And we focus on healing emotionally, looking at our inner child, figuring out systemically why we keep responding with stress. So inside of this program, I work with a lot of people with severe eczema or people coming off of medication withdrawal like TSW. So if you're interested, click the link down below and please subscribe. I talk about eczema for the last 5.5 years. Apparently I'm not stopping anytime soon. So join me on this journey of healing your eczema naturally.